It is exactly 1 of 2 by the clock on the far wall. And we want to call the meeting of the Education Committee of the Board of Vocational Nursing and Psychiatric Technicians to order. As a beginning, I wish to have each of the committee members introduce themselves. I will start to my right, the audience's left.
Good afternoon, Kenneth Maxey, public member.
Good afternoon. Carol Mountain.
Good afternoon, Carol Mountain, education member.
And then if our executive officer will introduce herself and the board staff.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Elaine Yamaguchi, executive officer, with us in the audience. We have Jessica Gomez, one of our nursing education consultants, Geraldine Marcino, one of our education analysts, and directly to my right, Marie Cordiero, our still very new supervising nursing education consultant.
And also we have present a legal representation. If you'll please introduce yourself.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Kenneth Swenson, Senior Staff Counsel with Attorney 3, Legal Counsel for the Board.
And with that, I want to start with the Pledge of Allegiance. If everyone will stand, and if our legal counsel will lead us in the pledge.
Attention, salute, begin. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Mr. Swenson. I am Bernice Basti Martinez, the chair of the committee, as well as the vice president of the board, and also a public member. I see we have lots of visitors with us, and given our size, we'll let each school stand and introduce yourselves. And if one person from each school will come to the mic, so those that are listening to us know you're here.
I'll just go down. Glendale Career College, Brightwood College Teach Out for the San Diego campus.
And I'm Judith Hodson. I'm with the Van Nuys Brightwood Northwest Teach Out campus.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to introduce themselves? I believe in surprising you. Usually I make the introductions, but this makes sure no one can sleep.
Ike Maneko, Advanced Medical School of Nursing.
Thank you. We'll move to our agenda, and we will start with Brightwood College Teach Out update.
Can I get you just to talk just a little bit further away from the microphone? I know, I'm here, I'm being sneaky, but I can do it, I'm hearing you blowing off a little bit, okay? All right, thank you.
Okay, so at our executive committee meeting, I think last month, it was requested that Brightwood, both program directors, Brightwood Teach Out, both campuses, program directors attend this meeting with some of their students to address how the Teach Out is going, give us a little update on things like how you're progressing through the program, what remediation efforts are being given to you, how's travel, has that been an issue for you, and anything else that you really would like to tell us, and just give us an update. Your directors will be giving formal updates in another month or two, but we did want to hear from some of the students, so whoever.
And if you'll please approach the mic State your name and location, and please feel free to tell us whatever you'd like for us to know.
Thank you. My name is Dante Crespo. I'm a student over at the Brightwood Teach Out over that Northwest College campus in Van Nuys. And first off, I would like to really thank you for approving us to go through this Teach Out. We've been faced with the getting so close to our finish date, and then having that pulled away. But now that we're able to continue this education process and not really losing any track on it either. We were told by our staff and faculty throughout the interim of the break, just the topics that we would still be need to be ready for when we did return to wherever it was or wherever we're going to go, just to continue our reading and education, and not to forget the tools that we have learned so far. Going into this next part, we just did our HESI, the maternity side for our level 3, and so we're waiting for our it's a practice round, but we're waiting for our remediation hours for that. As a group, we've all been collectively coming together even more. Prior to where class begins, we just gather in the student lounge because the school itself is quite small, and because of that, the existing students that are already there, they occupy all the rooms. So when it is time for us to have a moment of our lecture, we have to work around their schedule, but that's all. We already know that. But as our class does come together, we've decided that we can start going into the student lounge, and basically we've taken over the student lounge, and we go in there and we just have our moments of piggybacking where we can get more questions and answers from each other, helping each other to strengthen our weak areas. Because if there's anything that's more important at this time is to prove to the board that that everything that our staff and faculty has been teaching us as of so far before the move, now everything is really starting to showcase how much we really want it, and the tools that they've already given us are just exceptional, and we're so thankful to have them give us this teach out, because if it weren't for them, we really wouldn't have that kind of direction that we would really, really need. So I just really thank you. And so does I was at clinical this morning, and my team there, part of that clinical group, also wanted to thank you. So thank you.
Hi, my name is Vicki Parkhurst, and I'm at Glendale Teach Out, Brightwood Glendale Teach Out in San Diego. I'm in the LVN program in the evening, which when the program shut down is really difficult for me to find a different location that would take me, because they do not have evening programs, and I work full-time and have a disabled child, so I really need to be where I can be, and I wanted to pursue this future for me for the last 20 years. So for me to start this program and then have it kind of closed down was a disappointment, but I always had faith that my dean was amazing and stepped up for us, and that was just, I really kind of controlled my group that I had with my class, and they were really upset and kind of like jumping the gun a little bit, and I said, look, they're trying to help us out. Let's slow down, breathe in and breathe out, and this is going to work out for us. We just have to have faith. And going back into school, we have lost some people, and that's unfortunate, mostly just for them to pursue their career in other states, because that was their end goal anyways. But what we found out is that these teachers, even during the shutdown before we started Glendale, I would go to the campus when they were closing it down, and all the teachers and staff have been so supportive emotionally and just there for us if we needed to talk to them. I've never felt uncomfortable, or not that I could go to them with anything, even prior to this, when you have such the massive amount of stress of being full-time working and going to school. I've never seen, like, gone up to a teacher and them not want to help me, even if it was a personal matter, for us to succeed. And that was really important to me. And I also attended Merritt College, which is the sister school or the beginning of was Merritt, then or Kaplan, then Brightwood. And I believe in this program. I believe that this is where I worked in the medical field for 7 years, and I did have to take a gap because I do have a disabled child. And this is my passion to go forward, and I chose the program that I believed in, and that also had the night program that I didn't have to get a CNA to get into because, you know, I'm a little bit more seasoned, so I didn't have that time for that. Also, I just wanted to touch on the remediation. What I do know about Brightwood and Glendale is taking over that I feel like such a different community of staff and leadership with the Glendale is that they're really trying to get us to our end goal and definitely just supporting. And the remediation that I've seen is that every week we get these forums that teach us, like, where are you at? Where are you? How far did you get behind? And it seems like everybody is really not that far behind. And so what my teacher during the day or at night is doing is we have these EAQs. So these are practice tests that she gives us for if we are, so whatever I'm lacking in, which would be like, maybe it would be respiratory. I get EAQs to study to get me up to par on respiratory. So we're not like, if he's down in GI, he's not gonna have to remediate GI, he's remediating GI and I'm remediating respiratory. So that is, I think, productive, and also of how fast these programs are. And one other thing that I noticed that these are really fast programs. And you think that when you're in it, that maybe you're not really retaining it because it's a lot. But then when we went back and we did do the remediation, I believe that what my teacher told me that we all scored in the 80th percentile. So we are retaining the information even at the speed that we go. So thank you for your time, and I appreciate you, and you are my future, so thank you.
Jennifer Heiligman, term 4. Thank you, Jesus.
Thank you.
Evening LVN program as well. And also one of the many students, very grateful that this teach out is happening because it is the only night LVN program. The only other option I personally would have had, because I travel an hour to class, is Northwest in Riverside. And I don't know when I would have been able to start or if I would have had to repeat anything. So, and I've also bonded with our dean, my instructors, my classmates. I've seen them more than I've seen my own kids. So we're all grateful for that. When it first happened, we all had our initial shock moment, but then the next day we all brushed ourselves off and said, you know what, we're going to finish this term. We're going to pull some 12-hour shifts, which were hard, but we did it. And we, like Vicki said, we had faith that this was going to happen. And we didn't need any professional mental counseling. We had the people that mattered the most to us. We had Mrs. Soretsky, who would email and text and call our instructors, always right there with us. And those last 4 clinical days were really tough. But we did it because we care. And I think we were asked to write letters as students as to how all of this was affecting us. I think patients speak for us more than we do, because I remember my last day, I stood in the hallway with one of our patients for about 30 minutes and both of us crying. And she said, don't give up. She's like, you girls have something not everybody has. It makes you who you are. She's like, she just kept telling me, fight, fight, fight. Well, she ended up coding. She is okay now. But she told us that she actually had an out-of-body experience. And she says she was over her body watching them perform CPR on her. And what made me love what I'm doing even more, she says she was going around that facility looking for us, the students. above everything else. Financial aid is going fine. VA students, they have a little bit of difficulty, but it's fine. Everybody's getting through it. We're adults. We're plugging through. We're figuring out how to make it work. We've got all the support we need. The remediation, again, we're all adults. We've been doing EAQs ad nauseum, and I can't emphasize that enough. But as term 4, I'm taking NCLEX here in a few short months, and I only plan on taking it once. So we're studying hard. We know it's hard. It's a compressed program, but you know what? We signed up for it, and we're making it work. We quiz each other during clinicals. I walk around with a list of questions if I know we have a test coming up, and I quiz my classmates because that helps me and it helps them. So with remediation, I haven't seen in my classmates anybody falling behind. We slid right into it with skills. Our second day back, we were on our clinical site. And the RNs, the staff that we work with, they were so happy to see us. Our med nurses are absolutely wonderful at Jacobs where we're at. They're teaching us everything they know, and we're just having a blast right now. And we're making everything we can of it. But we are very grateful for everything. And it was a long wait, but I also think it was a blessing in disguise because we were tired. I was mentally exhausted, and a lot of us were, but honestly, it gave time for all that information to absorb. And like I said, God lets everything happen for a reason. So we are very grateful that we're back in our scrubs and killing ourselves for the next however many months it is. But do know that the students you brought back, they're good students. And they're working hard to one day maybe be taking care of you or taking care of each other. And any of my classmates, I would want them taking care of me. So again, thank you very much.
Thank you for being here with us. I'm going to ask if any of the committee members have questions or comments.
I just want to commend the chair as well as the rest of the board. I think this was something that we had to react on very quickly. And yet it was very important to the state and to the students that we do something that was necessary. And so I just want to commend everyone that was part of this because it was a huge undertaking.
I'd actually like to thank you, students, for coming and sharing your experience and your story and what's happened to you since all of this transpired. And I say kudos to you guys. Good for you.
I'd like to say congratulations again, and I'd be proud to have any of you as my nurse.
We very much appreciate having an opportunity to hear from you. The amount of concern about the circumstance under which all of this occurred really weighed heavily on not just this committee, but the entire board, as well as the entire staff. The staff worked incredibly numerous hours to make sure the right meetings were set up, requesting the appropriate paperwork so that things could move forward and be advanced on not only your behalf, but also those who worked and actually volunteered. We want to thank those with the Teach Out who volunteered to open their doors to ensure there at least were alternatives for those who were willing to take a chance and go to a different location. And fortunately, with nearly all, as we understand, of the staff and faculty that you were so familiar with, having worked with them. You're courageous. Thank you. We really do look forward to hearing not only that you complete your work, but that you pass exams with flying colors first time, and that you are out in the workforce taking care of those in need. And it could be any of us. You are absolutely right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Unless you have more to say, we will move on with the agenda.
Thank you so much. Thanks for your time.
Any further comment from staff or committee? Again, thanks to the staff for their hard work in this. Next agenda item is 6. It's discussion and possible action to make recommendations to the board regarding reconsideration of provisional approval and requests to admit students. I'm going to start with the Advanced Medical School of Nursing, Pittsburgh Vocational Nursing Program. And I believe we have staff ready to speak to us on this.
Yeah. The first thing I would like to point out is there are 2 typos in here. Under the recommendations, Berkeley is written down for both number 1 and number 2. It should be Pittsburgh. Okay.
You're referring to
The
page
recommendation,
2?
Page 2. Mhm.
Okay, thank you.
All right. At the board meeting,
Excuse me, please, I think I left something in my car. I got to run out and get it. If it's okay, please.
I'm sorry, you are out of order. If you do need to leave, please do. We have not asked for a representative to come forth for.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
all right, so at the board meeting, the board was presented with packets from the program owner that I had not had an opportunity to see at the time. Some of the packets were left for me, not all of them were, but I was able to evaluate from his script what I needed to be able to look at. We initially took the recommendation of the board to make another site visit. At this site visit, the executive officer, the supervising NEC, program analyst, and myself all went to the site visit. And if you will look on pages that start with 12 of the report, you will see the first thing that was of concern to me was the picture. The first picture on the left is the picture that he provided of the school. The second picture is the actual front of the school. So the picture that he provided was not of the school. Then we went on in to look at the facility. He was at that facility that day. And my supervising NEC needed to use the restroom. And we do have photos of her having to use toilet seat covers to dry her hands because, again, there were no paper towels in the bathroom. And the picture on page 113, the top one, is a trash can filled with paper seat covers that had been used for people to dry their hands rather than paper towels. Now, upon request, or talking to the owner, he did provide some paper towels, and he says, oh, we do have them, but they just are not kept in the bathroom, I guess. The only working bathroom next to the skills lab and the classroom has a sign on it, do not use this restroom. And that's the only working restroom that's in that building. And you can see there's a water fountain over there by the classroom and the skills lab. it does not work. When we ask him how the students would get a drink of water, he says, well, they can get it out of the Skills Lab sink. The photos that you see at the bottom of page 13, though there are no lights in the Skills Lab, and you can see on the far side of both pictures where the classroom is, that there's lights in that area, but there's no lights in the Skills Lab. And so this was very concerning to us. We got to the computer lab, and we wanted to make sure that those computers turned on. And he was able to turn the computers on. I asked him if he had the password, and he said, so that we could see what programs he has for the students, and he said that he didn't remember the password. I asked him who has access to the password, and he says only himself and the program director. The next picture is of their break room, and you can't see in this photo when it's not in color, but there are two pictures of two chairs that are more for toddlers than they are for adults, so that they don't even have enough chairs for the students to sit in adult-sized chairs. The picture on page 15 is the picture that he provided of the faculty room, and the other pictures are what we found in the faculty room. We found a moth that was disintegrating into a textbook. We found bug killer in one of the desk drawers of one of the instructors. There was a box over what said water valve, and there in the corner there was a bucket which looked like it had moldy water in. I can't say that's what it was, but that's what it looked like. And a ladder in there. So it doesn't look anything like the picture that he provided to us. When we got there, we asked for the program director, and he says, well, she's not here today. She's only here when I absolutely need her. And we asked her if he could arrange to get her there, and there was no attempt to bring her there. And so this was our visit with him at his site. Now, on the following Friday, we had an appointment with him and his program director, which we accommodated her schedule. And she did not come to that meeting, and so the meeting was stopped at that time because the program director was not there. I have no evidence that we have an active director working for this program. When I try to talk to her or reach her, I do not get any response from her. I have sent her emails asking her to call me, and I get nothing from her. I tried to send her 3 emails with this report in it, and all 3 of them came back on my 4th attempt after Dr. Ike had asked me to if I was using the right email, because I did send him an email saying that I wasn't getting through to her, that they were coming back. The 4th time it did go through, and using the very same email. So it's very odd that it didn't go through 3 times, but then it did the 4th time. Initially, we had 15 violations. They have corrected 4 of those. We have added 1 violation, which is the pass rates, because his pass rate is at 27%, and which gives him 5 active violations that they have at this time. These violations include not having adequate resources, which include facilities and resources within the campus itself for the students. Just a second. It includes not having the active director, not having the resources, their pass rates. In evaluating the information that they had sent for the class that they were requesting. They're not following their curriculum, and so they either have not enough or way too many hours, and I will go over a sheet with you in just a moment with that. And they do not have the facilities that they need to offer the class. If you will look at attachment B, you will see that he says that he has adequate facilities for OB and peds. And I had received an email from them stating that he had sent me, stating that if it was within the managers, that they would determine whether or not the students could come back with the new management. On the 5th, after our meeting with Dr. Ike, I did send an email to their representative that was in the email that he had sent. And it says that Antioch could have 4 students for OB, Brentwood could have 4 students for OB, Pittsburgh could have 5 students for OB. For pediatrics, Antioch could have 3, Brentwood could have 3, and Pittsburgh could have 5. In their request for placement of students in the forms that they sent me, they had 10 students at each site. So this far falls from what they were able to have. If you will look at attachment C, you will see that in evaluating the paperwork that they submitted, that if Windsor Manor Rehab Center in Concord was not Windsor Concord, they need a new application. He's been aware that they need a new application for this facility. I've asked him several times for it. He sent it to me with his signature on it. It needs to be his program director's signature on it. And so we have not been able to approve that facility with the change of name. If you look on the far right side, under total of hours, these are the hours that he put on his form that they were going to be following. And if you take 24 hours times 7 weeks, you're going to come up with 168, which I have on the other side. He has 145. And if you follow these, if you look down at the bottom row, that one is that one is right. 8 weeks at 24 hours is 192. So they did have some of them that were correct, but if you look at the total number of hours, they're not following the curriculum here because the board approved skills lab is 105, and we don't expect the skills lab to be put into this information, but the clinical hours should be 876, and his total 776, which is 100 hours less for clinicals, or it total, if it was with the way I figured it out with the totals, it was 960, which was way over. So either way, they're not following their curriculum that is board approved. In many of the sites that he had on here, you will see that on page 1 of this, Windsor Vallejo, he has term 1 scheduled for his students. They're not approved to be there for level 1. And I believe there was another one. On page 2, for Windsor Rosewood, they're scheduled for terms 1, 2, and 3. They're only approved for level 4. So to say they have the facilities, they don't have the approval for the facilities that he's sending.
And your overall recommendation?
Is to follow my recommendations.
Okay. Thank you. And now we need a representative from the school.
Thank you. Thank you.
Have you received this report?
No, I did not. Untimely, I just got them about 11 o'clock this morning when I was already driving down here.
Okay. Do you agree with the report?
Well, I cannot agree with it. No, I cannot, because I haven't had a chance to review it. I was just reading the report, and so I didn't see, just making notes some of the things she's saying, but I haven't had a copy of the full report to review it.
All right.
Madam Chair.
Yes, please.
May I recommend that we get the school representative to identify himself and his capacity he's appearing in today?
Thank you.
Ike Maneko, I am the program administrator, and I was going to talk about DON too.
When you say program administrator, you're the owner, you're the director, you're faculty? What do you mean by program administrator?
Owner and administrator.
And when you say administrator, is that the educational director of the program?
Well, I just know that I'm the administrator. I don't know the,
Okay.
educational director.
As chair, I need some help from staff. We have a name of a director,
Yes, we
and the
do.
record shows, who is that?
Pamela Frazier.
Okay, thank you. Is Ms. Frazier available today?
She's not. She's out sick, and yesterday she communicated with her to see if she can come. She sent me a text message that she's still out sick and unfortunately couldn't make it, that the doctor has not released her. I made a copy of that, and unfortunately I can't find that, but I can show you the text message here on my cell phone.
Okay,
To
thank
show
you. And another question to staff. The report was completed and distributed. When would you help us with that, please?
We finished the report last week. It was sent out to the program director on Wednesday.
To the program director, which is the general protocol.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. You received the report from the educational director then, or how did you get the report, sir?
I requested for another copy this morning. When we spoke last, via email with the NEC, she said that she sent it, it didn't come through. I don't know why, but I do have access to our DON, the email. So I sent her an email back with correct email address, and she said that's what she's using. Don't know why she's not coming through, but we did not receive anything from her last week. Well, this morning, I came in early hoping to have something, hoping so I can review it, and it didn't come in. I shot back an email to her.
Thank you. Thank you. I need advice from legal counsel,
Can I say
please.
I did get a verification that the fourth email did go through?
Okay, thank you. I'd like some advice from legal counsel. It is generally our protocol to do this work with the director of a school, and currently the director is unavailable, is not here. Under the circumstances, this is, I believe, the second time when we have not had a director present. Your advice, please?
I recommend proceeding with the hearing today. The program has received due and legal notice if the program director of record was served by email, so the hearing can proceed today.
Thank you very much. All right. We do have the record. You have heard the findings of the report. I understand you now have a copy of that report. And I want to make sure I heard correctly. You said you do not agree with the report because you have not read it, or because you believe the findings are not true?
Well, both. And I would like to request for the receipt that shows that the email was received by us. She says she has a copy.
I don't
A
have it
return
with me.
receipt. We would like to request that because we'd like to know why that is the case. We did not receive anything. But to answer your question, is both, because just glancing through and listening to what she said, one of the comments was that the picture we sent to the board is not of the school. Where else could I go get another picture to send to the board? That the picture they took is not the same with the picture that was sent to the board. That was one thing that I just caught. That's impossible. So I do not agree with the report, the ones that I've listened to, and I haven't had a chance to review all the reports.
Okay. Notwithstanding the photos, there are some very serious violations that have been noted here. One definitely related to the presence of a director, and we have not seen a director in this meeting or at the formal board meeting. And again, today, we do not have a director. In accordance with what was recommended at the last board meeting, the full board asked that the director be present for the Education Committee meeting. We do not see a director here. I'm sorry, without the director, it is very difficult to move forward. You say you are the administrator, and we do have violations on the record that have, in this case, are over and beyond just the photos that are here. One, the absence or lack of evidence of a director. The pass rate is crucial in terms of program standing. There are some additional items, including how the program moves forward around curriculum and clinical hours. Can you speak to those violations?
Only to the extent of what I've heard her say. I can't say what is in the report, but based on the information that we have, all the facilities that we used for the last students are all on board. Now, all of them. The one, she said something about Windsor Concord. I believe she was talking about Windsor Vallejo, that she approved, and the facility changed their name to Windsor. They added Care Center, Windsor Care Center Vallejo, to their name. That was the only facility, but that facility was already approved before. And I got a reconfirmation for our students to go back to that facility. So they are willing to take us back. Now, what we sent to her, the approval that we sent to her to sign, she said she needed the DO and the signature on that, which is understandable. She sent it back. And the last meeting I brought it with me to have the DO and sign. Unfortunately, she couldn't attend that meeting because she was ill. I have it with me here, hoping that if she can, she will sign it, unfortunately. So, but all the facilities that we had are all on board.
Okay, thank you. Committee have other questions?
Yeah, I just have some concerns as I read through the report, and I wonder about the understanding at the school of the importance of the education that's being given to students that are about to go out and deal with people that are ill, dying, very, very sick, and it just feels like that essence isn't there. Could you speak to that?
Yes, it may feel like it from the verbal report given by the NEC, but we take education very seriously. And the school has been vacant, idle for almost 2 years, going to 2 years now. So what you're going to see just coming unannounced is not what you're going to expect to see if we have students. Now the entire building, as large as it is, it's been vacant for almost 2 years. So when they drop, I just saw a picture that has something to say about a moth, in a textbook. I happened to say that. I mean, for a place that has been vacant for almost 2 years, we try our best to keep it going until school starts. So to answer your question, we do take education very seriously. I personally, our personnel will not admit any student if we think, or if I think that we don't have the resources to do that. The headache is just, it's not worth it. And I have children myself. I will not do to others what I wouldn't want others to do to my kids. I will not admit any student to that school if I believe that we don't have what it takes to pull it through. And now that is not the case. We do have what it takes. I mean, the report, we talk about toilets and toilet papers. I don't know if that is really what I want to be addressing the board on, but it keeps coming up. I didn't bring a whole box of toilet paper, and show them. We have it, it just wasn't put up. It was only how many people in that building. The one that we used, one restroom that is inside, we don't have anybody coming in there. Now, if school was in section, then that to me would be a serious issue that students don't have anywhere. So we do take that very seriously. And we do take education very seriously. The comfort and benefit of the students, we take it very seriously. We just haven't had anything happen in that building for an extended period of time.
Madam Chair?
Yes,
May I make a comment?
please.
So I had to use the restroom, and Dr. Ike directed me to the restroom, and you saw my picture there with the toilet seat cover, because there was no paper towels in that.
You need to speak into the mic.
I'm sorry, and that was one of the items.
Press the,
This? Okay. Okay, I had to use the restroom, and Dr. Ike said, oh, I think I found it, here it is. And I had to use toilet seat covers after I washed my hands with cold water. And I came out and, we asked about the paper towels because that was a violation that was originally at the original site visit. And you thought it might have been corrected. We were hoping. He says, well, nobody uses that. But I had seen an employee who I later found out was his daughter was in the restroom right before I was in the restroom. And I said, well, but obviously you and your daughter used someone's here. She must use the restroom. He says, oh, I don't know, maybe she keeps paper towels in her office or something. That was his comment to me.
Okay. But I did bring a whole box, right?
Yes, you did bring
Okay.
a box.
We have it, we just didn't know the paper towel was out. So it's not that we didn't have it, but, the point to answer your question, these are issues that will not arise if we have students there, because then we will have our regular janitorial person come as normal as she would to make sure we have toilet papers and all that.
I recognize the committee member.
Dr. Ike, I don't know where to start today. This is really a challenge for me to actually sit here as a board member and to see these photos, to hear this report, to represent the state of California as a board member, to have the good sense to actually believe that we should actually even have you as a school. It's not that you have to do better. We will close you down if you do not do the right thing. This is inadequate. This is not in compliance. I don't know what to say about this. I mean, before it was laptops, or it was desktops, where there wasn't desktops on the desk. We had the NACs go there to check that out. Programs weren't on the computers. You say you care about the students.
I do.
You care, and I want to believe that.
Yeah.
But it's hard for me to believe that today, when in fact, I'm looking at some atrocious photos, and the report that's been given, you may not have gotten it, but I would tell you right now, if this was me on the other end of you, I would be trying to make every comment impossible to ensure that we, this board, this committee, can go back to our fellow board members and tell them that we're making the right decision by ensuring that you stay as a school. At this point, I don't feel that way. And I need for you to make comments today to ensure us that we are not going to go to our colleagues on the board with the wrong information.
Thank you, I appreciate that. And, going back to the question she asked before yours, we do care about our students. And there are no issues on this report, even though that I haven't read them, I've heard what she said that we cannot correct. And we are destined to correct, that's not the right word, we are going to correct any issues that are identified. Like I said, I will not admit any students and have them subjected to an environment that is not conducive to learning if we don't think that we have what it takes to do it. And the items that are identified, we will fix. The clinical facility, I honestly believe, I think that's one of the key issues too, right? I honestly believe that clinical sites are not an issue for us. We do have the sites. Only one that had a name change that needs to be approved by the NAC. This site has been approved before.
Sir, I'm also having difficulty. This is not the first time the school has been before this committee.
Correct.
And as I recollect, and we can call for the record, but as I recollect, you have promised us each time you're before this committee that the violations would be corrected. Instead of corrections, we still see the same violations before us. Yes, we need vocational nurses, but we cannot support the preparation of these nurses in an environment that do not meet the standards required by this board. We are held responsible for protecting the public of California. And it starts with where these professionals are prepared. And it would start in your school. Reviewing the record, there have been incidents related to some of the violations we're discussing today since 2017. This is 2019. There are others before then. If we have no evidence, we can only act based on the evidence before us. Good hearts, goodwill is one thing. It's the action that's very important, and we don't have any evidence of change and action. Any further comment from staff, board members?
I think that the evidence that's most concerning to me is that we've discussed all these difficulties within the school environment, and it's reflected in a 27% pass rate. And that, for me, is a lot of concern. Where is the service to the students so that they are at least meeting the national standard? When you have the majority of your class unable to pass boards, that tells me that there's a disconnect at the educational level for those students when they sit down to take the NCLEX PM. And that's the evidence of what's happening in the educational environment.
And that is a very legitimate concern, a very good question as well. And that has been the issue we've been trying to address. We had all these violations, most of which led to the low passing rate. We have corrected those violations, and unfortunately, those violations could not benefit our previous students. The result of the correction can only be seen with our next batch of students. And the last time I met with the board, the last board meeting, I did make it clear that a passing rate of 27%, 37%, I forgot what it is no way acceptable. And that is not, based on the corrections that we've made, We know what led to that poor performance. And we've taken the steps from the discussion we've been having with the board and the corrections that we've made to address those issues. So those issues have been addressed. And the low passing rate, if given the chance, is not something that I will see to happen again. And one of the key ones being NCLEX review. As someone who's taken professional exams myself, I know that no matter how much you study, those reviews are very critical to understanding how to pass the exam. And that's one of the areas, among others, that we intend to correct and focus on.
Thank you. I'm calling for a motion. And again, there are recommendations from staff. If there is a motion,
I would make a motion that we accept the NAC's report, the recommendations.
I second that.
okay. The motion on the floor is to accept the recommendations as prepared in the report from our staff. And there are three. One, to deny the Advanced Medical School of Nursing Pittsburgh Vocational Nursing Program's request of a class of 30 students to commence September 5th, 2019, scheduled to graduate October 5th, 2020. Second, revoke the provisional approval of the Advanced Medical School of Nursing Pittsburgh Vocational Nursing Program effective immediately. Third, remove the program from the board's list of approved vocational nursing schools effective immediately. Any discussion?
I would just say, Dr. Ike, I don't think we needed to get here.
I'm sorry?
I don't think we needed to be here today to have this conversation. I think there could have been some steps that you could have taken and the school could have taken. But sadly, we are. And my hope is that the other schools that you do have, you're able to take from this example and improve on the work that needed to be done with this school.
Any further committee comments? There's a motion on the floor. I call for public comment. Seeing none, I will call for a roll call vote. I want to make sure the committee understands what the motion is. Do I need to repeat it? I'm sorry, I can't read head nods.
No.
No.
Thank you.
And point of clarification, this would be to recommend to the full board that the report and recommendations also be adopted.
Thank you. Again, it is a recommendation from this committee based on our work with staff. I'll start with my far right. Your vote?
I vote to go with the recommendations as stated.
I do as well.
It is, let the record show, it is 3 in favor of recommending to the board. And that's unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you.
Continuing with our agenda, there is item 7. Discussion and possible action to make recommendations to the board regarding reconsideration of forfeiture of program approval, the Advanced Medical School of Nursing, Berkeley Vocational Nursing Program. Jessica?
Yes. Advanced Medical Berkeley was approved on July 18, 2014, to start a class and approve the program. To this date, the program has had 2 classes that were scheduled to start and has started neither of these classes. So under seeking legal advice, the program did not request after 4 years to continue on with having the program. So the report was submitted to the executive officer to close this program.
Do we have a representative of this school with us?
Excuse me, I don't mean to be rude. I was trying to go to my car and get the paperwork I was going to get before.
I want to make sure I'm understanding. You wish to submit paperwork that staff has not seen?
No.
I'm confused. Help me understand, please.
The paperwork regarding, it's nothing she's seen it. What I'm submitting is what she gave to us already. The paperwork that she gave to us.
And so you do not have it with you here?
I have it in the car.
Okay. I believe staff can provide a copy of the report for you. I understand when you say it's in your car. We are in session right now. I'm very sorry. We anticipate that all who will be with us will be prepared once they are with us.
Yeah, I have this copy already. What I was going to go get is this says the reason for recommending that the program be closed is that we do not have a DON for this program, right? And also not commencing class within 4 years. We do have a DON that she approved. So that's what I was going to go get on my car.
May I say?
Yes, please.
Melissa Grove is the person that we had as approved, and she sent a resignation 2 years ago that she was no longer part of the program, so I have not approved anyone since that time.
So if we understand correctly, the directorship is currently vacant.
To my knowledge, there is no director, but I don't know who he would have as the director.
Just for clarification,
Yes.
if there is to be a recognized director, the appropriate paperwork must be submitted to the staff for review and approval recognition.
Yes.
If we're understanding correctly, to date, there has been no paperwork submitted reflecting a replacement of the now vacant or resignation, it appears,
No, there's
of
been
a former director.
No, there's been nothing submitted.
Is there a current director, sir?
Yes, there is. Melissa is our current director. When Melissa resigned, she resigned as the director of the Pittsburgh campus. And I have an email from her that she just sent me yesterday. I just thought 5% indicating that she is still, as far as she knows, the director for the Berkeley campus. So,
Is she going to be with us today?
No.
Is she present at all?
no, she's not.
One of the challenges we have, when paperwork has not been sent in a timely manner for review by staff so that appropriate responses and information can be provided to the committee, we can only act on the evidence that we have at the time.
That's
If you're about ready, if we understand right, to submit some information, which technically is after the fact. We are currently in session about Berkeley, the Berkeley site, with the information that has been received to date, formally received. It means it has to be sent to the staff for their review and for notification of the committee members, so that we're prepared for whatever testimony, whatever is presented to us in meetings like this, so that we know what questions we need answers about. Currently, by record appears, there is no formal approved director. And we hear you telling us as owner, there is one, but there's no one present. That's a challenge. It's a huge challenge.
I understand that she is not present, but the approval was given by her, and by the NEC, I'm sorry, I meant to say. So I was just going to show her her approval, and then this email from Melissa that she never resigned as the DON for the Berkeley site. She did resign as DON for the Pittsburgh site.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
There are some other violations here. Well, actually, they aren't necessarily violations, but there was inaction. There was a approval, and to date, nothing has been done around that approval. Can you speak to that?
Yes, the reason why nothing has been done is it was our goal to have a strong footing, to have an established program before we start branching out, because we didn't want to take on more than we can handle. And this Pittsburgh campus was going to be the one that will afford us that opportunity to do that. So that's why we haven't embarked on it. And I kind of shared that program with the executive director when she asked me. She asked me that question when they came out, and that's what I told her.
It's painful when we know how desperately there is a need for more vocational nurses in the state of California. And we have a program that was given permission to initiate a class, and there is no class. And furthermore, by current record, no approved program director. I'm troubled as one who has a responsibility of protecting the public of the state of California. Are there other questions or concerns from other committee members?
Yeah. I again, I share the sentiments of the chair. Very troubled by this information that's in front of me. Sir, what was your purpose in starting these schools?
What was my purpose?
Yes.
Provide education to deserving students.
And do you feel like you fulfilled that so far?
What we have done, we have. I know we could have done much better. If I didn't think so, I wouldn't come to the board. That was our first program. We made a mistake, and when we learned from it, and we wanted to leverage on our mistakes to provide a super great education to our students. Unfortunately, that didn't happen. But yes, if I were to do it again, I know there are a lot of things I will improve, and that's what the citation is all about. Improve on those things and make sure that we provide the quality education that the board deserves us to provide.
You said earlier that you didn't want to take on more than you could handle. Well, from my vantage point today, you took on way more than you could handle. And we are now here as a board, here as a committee, trying to decipher through all this information that, quite frankly, you have no comment to really tell us anything different. And in fact, in the multiple times that you've been in front of this committee and this board, I don't believe, and please tell me if I'm wrong on this, that you've brought any students, you've brought any witnesses that can attest to the great opportunity that your school has provided, according to you. And so I am troubled to no end today, and quite frankly, I'm almost disgusted. And I truly hope that we as a committee can come to some agreement today, because this is not a good story to tell for you, and particularly for this committee and this board.
Thank you for your concern. That's a good point as far as not bringing the students. That's something I didn't think about. If I thought of that, kind of in hindsight, I wish I'd thought of that. Yeah, but I do have quite a few students that we speak to have personally been down to help them. I've done a lot of that. I've helped most students that could otherwise would not have gotten help. That is my goal. That has been my objective.
Well, I would suggest to you, this is a committee meeting, but we have a board meeting, and we're going to make a recommendation. I'm pretty sure I know what the result's going to be, and I'm hoping it's going to be that way. And hoping that you take this extremely serious, because this is not normal. This is not normal by any shot. And in the state of California, we have high expectations for the schools that we bring into this system, and you have made this committee and this board look like we don't know what we're doing. And that's not a good feeling. Do you understand what I'm saying?
No, I don't. I don't know how I made you feel like you don't know what you're doing. My action is not your action. I mean, I heard, and you came out and said, these are the things you're doing wrong. You did your part. I've always believed and appreciated what the board is doing, has been doing, and continues to do. So I don't see how that is a reflection on what you do. It's just, when I say that we don't want to take on more than we can handle, I meant that statement to mean that we wanted to have an established school and start building. When we started, if we had started 2 programs at the same time, that was never our intention. Our intention was to start one today and then start the other one the following year. Unfortunately, we didn't start the first one the time it was supposed to start. It took a while to get it started. So that is not in any way a bad reflection on the board as far as I'm concerned, as far as I know, and I don't intend that to be. It's just the way our program was structured. And we will continue to do our very best. We've really learned a lot. It's unfortunate that you're recommending to shut down the Pittsburgh program, which, I respect your decision, but that was the program, our very first program that we made a lot of mistakes on. And we were hoping to capitalize on those mistakes that we've made to make sure that they don't reoccur when we have students in. And coming to see some of these things for a program that has been vacant for almost 2 years and use that as a decision, I'm hoping that that will not impact the other program, because what we've learned from the Pittsburgh program has positions us to provide a better education.
Again, I would suggest and recommend that you are not the only person representing your school, and that you have other voices to come and speak to that truth. If that is the truth, then I would like to hear personally, as a board member, that story from others.
I'd like to add on to that, because I'm a director of a program myself, and I find it extremely concerning that your director isn't here, and that there's been almost no contact with the director. And as a director of a program, that person is responsible for the education of those nurses. And as a nurse, you have a responsibility to the profession. And I also strongly encourage you, if you are coming to the full board meeting, you need to bring your director of nursing with you, and she needs to address some of these concerns, because that's a big concern for me, because I'm in that role and I know how I feel about it. And her not being here today and not being able to be reached by the NEC That's huge. That's huge. It's her responsibility as a nurse and as a director to be actively involved and to be a full participant in the curriculum and everything that happens to those students.
I agree, and that's, unfortunately, I did find the doctor's paper, if it makes any difference. I'm not the doctor's paper, the note she gave to me, can I read it for you? If I may. My doctor has not released me still, keeping me on strong meds. I'm not able to do anything. My voice keeps coming and going as soon as I start talking. My larynges comes back. So this is something she sent to me because I told her how important this meeting. As a matter of fact, I didn't make it known to her that my program will be shut down if she doesn't show up. The board made it clear to me that if she doesn't show up, because we had a meeting that was canceled. I went to the meeting, it was canceled because I wasn't there. So I knew how serious this was. And I let that known to her. So if she's sick and she says that she's sick, there's really nothing I can do. So I hear you loud and clear. She's supposed to be here, but she's sick, so that's why she couldn't.
Where's your assistant director? I have an assistant director. If I was ill, my assistant director would be here at a hearing to discuss and talk about the program. Where is your assistant director?
Well, again, this is a program that has been vacant for almost 2 years. We just couldn't have all the staff members coming to school every year, they're sitting down and not doing anything, So that's why we have her as the DON. She's supposed to be here, I agree. She's supposed to, and I made it clear to her the importance of her being in this meeting today. And unfortunately, she's not here, so.
For the record, just as a reminder, there will be a full board meeting in May. And the assumption would be if there is a director, at the time this program comes up, we will be making recommendations by motion here to the full board. You will have another opportunity to appear. It would be helpful to demonstrate there actually is a director of the program. I don't believe staff received or were copied on the email message that the individual you're referring to is ill. That would have been another way of demonstrating goodwill. In reviewing the report for this particular site in Berkeley, it shows more than once the program was approved to start a class. For whatever reason, we have documented information here, but for whatever reason, on the side of the site, the program was not started, a class did not occur. It is further reason why you hear such skepticism by the members of this committee. It is a very sad day. I call for a motion regarding,
Madam Chair?
yes.
Point of clarification here. This matter comes before the committee on a motion for reconsideration by the school. So the board has rendered a decision as of October 6, 2018.
Mm-hmm.
And so the motion.
It will not appear again.
The motion before that's being made by the program is for reconsideration of that decision. And the recommendations that would go to the full board would relate to whether the reconsideration of that decision, the committee's position on that issue.
Thank you. Committee? Yes, please. And just for clarification, it is do we accept or do we approve reconsideration based on what's been presented?
I move to not reconsider.
Is there a second?
Just point of clarification. clarification, so I understand the vote. If we do not do this, what is the next step?
The matter would go to the board for a full board vote at the next board meeting. So either way, as it stands now, the determination has been made that the program, by virtue of not having a director and not starting an initial class within 4 years, is removed from the active list. The request is pending before this committee to make a recommendation to the full board whether that decision should be reconsidered. And so if the motion passes, then the full board it would come before the full board for consideration of whether the earlier decision should be reconsidered and overturned or reversed.
Oof, it's a hard one for me. I'm sorry. Can I make some comment? No, because I know-
We don't have a motion on the floor yet.
This is a hard one for me.
We can put the motion on the floor, you can vote the motion up or down.
I,
We can have discussion about the motion.
yeah. I'm going to vote to actually not accept the recommendation.
We have a motion without a second. Is that a second to the motion? Thank you. Okay. Further discussion?
I have no further comments.
I'm just saddened because I truly want each school that comes to this committee and this board to be successful. And today, it seems like we might have made a bad decision. Even though you may have a good heart and a good thought around educating the next generation of vocational nurses, it didn't come through in regards to how the schools were operating. And so I'm just sad about that.
I appreciate your comment, but please do remember that we don't have any school operating at all now. And as far as the Pittsburgh site, which is already closed from the recommendation, we have nothing operating. If we did, what you saw or what they saw when they came would not be there. We wouldn't have seen that. So just, I'm hoping that we.
Point of order, this particular one is not about any visitation.
Okay.
This is, the staff recommendations have to do with a lack of a start. There was no class started, not once, not twice, but several times. And there is no formal director of record, approved director. Therefore, the recommendation is to close or end the program. There is no longer an approved program.
Okay, I thought.
And the understanding was, as a program, you're seeking reconsideration of what had already been stated. No longer an approved program.
Yes.
And at this point, the committee has a motion on the floor that would support no longer an approved program, meaning the reconsideration is not going to be accepted or considered.
Okay, before you make that vote, can I make a comment? Ask a question rather?
I'm about ready to call for public comment, and you may have 3 minutes.
Okay, my question.
Just a second, just a second. Are there any more comments from committee?
No, I have no further comment.
No, neither for me either.
Okay. Public comment? And I ask that be limited to 3 minutes.
Yes, actually, just a question. If I provide the information to substantiate that we do have an approved DON, can I still send that information to the NEC?
Madam Chair, that's a request for an improper advisory opinion. The matter before the board at this time is reconsideration of the decision. This is the time and place for the hearing on that before this committee, and it would be improper to provide any direction to the program as to what it would need to do to seek further relief. At this point, the decision is he's been provided notice of the decision, and we're here on reconsideration. This is the time and place of the hearing on the reconsideration.
Thank you.
If I may interject, please, I thought maybe I misunderstood the purpose of this meeting. I thought it was actually to come and present to the committee the information that we had, given that the meeting that we were supposed to have last time didn't meet because my DON was not there. So isn't this part of?
There are different types of requests that come before this committee. The type that is about reconsideration, there's already been a decision to discontinue the program. And at the request of the owner of said program, there is an ask, would there be a reconsideration to remove the current standing decision? We now have a motion on the floor, and the motion is none reconsideration. Are we ready to vote? I'll take from my far right, a roll call vote, please.
Say my name.
Yes.
Dr. Carol Mountain, I vote in support of the motion.
Ken Maxey, public member. I support the motion.
Bernice Basti Martinez, Chair of the Committee, I support the motion. Let the record show it passed unanimously. We will deny reconsideration.
Thank you very much for your time.
Moving on with the agenda, the next item, item 8, discussion and possible action to make recommendations to the board regarding requests to approve ongoing admission for full-time classes and requests to admit part-time classes. Stanbridge College, Irvine.
Yes, Stanbridge has respectfully requested to be removed from this agenda, and staff will be following up with them for further action, and we will keep you apprised as that happens.
Thank you. We move on to the next item, public comment. And for anyone that might, let the record show the committee may not discuss or take any action on any item raised during this public comment section, except to decide whether to place the matter on the agenda of a future meeting. Seeing no one approaching, hearing no one wishing to give public comment, I am now accepting suggestions for future agenda items for the Education Committee. Members? I do have a request. If staff can give us an update regarding a movement toward change in scoring, any updates on the NCLEX. There's been said there might be changes somewhere in the future. Has there been any new information released?
Is this regarding the 75%?
I'm sorry, I didn't
Is
hear.
this regarding the 75%?
No, but that is the second thing I would ask.
I understand that NCLEX.
Excuse me, this is limited to future agenda items. There can't be discussion of these questions other than to put them on an agenda for a future meeting.
But we can put these on the agenda? Is that what you're saying? I can,
These are suggestions. They may or may not appear on the next agenda, but these are points of interest of the committee.
okay. Thank you.
Anyone else? My. We will need to consult calendars, and we'll work with the executive officer to make sure we get the next education committee scheduled so that other program directors and schools can plan their travel. And at this point, we are at adjournment. Let the record show it is 3:29. Thank you, committee.